I was completely overwhelmed to win the Andrew Devonshire Award, and even more so when I read all the names around the base, because the luminaries on it have contributed so much to the thoroughbred industry as a whole and the breeding industry in particular. I started off unable to avoid any involvement in horses because my father trained. My mother was the granddaughter of the Earl of Derby, and there was no way I could avoid being involved. But having said that, the first thing from the age of 5 I wanted was a pony. And although my riding career was not conspicuous in any way, I did just love the animals and enjoyed the whole way of seeing horses from horseback and seeing the countryside from horseback. My mother had a few broodmares. Obviously her grandfather had quite a few broodmares, and on my father's side of the family they were steeped in horses and training. Most of my father's owners when he was training were owner breeders, so I've always been much more aware of that world than I have been of the commercial sales side of things. And although when my husband Ian started training, we did have more sort of bought horses, he still had his large proportion of his owners were owner breeders. I suppose it would be a little contrary of me to say winning the Imperial Cup with a homebred hurdler, but to breed something that is an all-rounder, I think is one of the great achievements that we can manage. But also passing glance, winning good enough races to be able to stand at stud, have something I had bred standing at stud, is great. And then Side Glance, who was by him winning the McKinnon Stakes, was a sort of marriage of families on both sides that we've had for years. As mentioned before, the horses that stand out obviously are the good ones. The sort of breeding program has been 90% luck, because our main foundation mare was a mare that Ian had trained for some owners who didn't want to keep her as a broodmare, so he bought her off them. And one of her produce won the Cambridgeshire and was the foundation for a whole stream of ours. She was called Siliciana, and she bred various fillies we've kept. And in turn, Elm Park, who won the Racing Post Trophy, was part of that family. And then we also inherited as a bad debt a mare called Spurned, who has been absolutely incredible for us, and she has bred, I think I'm right in saying, 7 black type horses. I've got quite a few of her daughters still at stud carrying on. And one of her daughters is the dam of something called Kingsclere Stud, who's won some lovely races and a lot of prize money in Hong Kong. So, it is that continuation of years and years. Makes you feel very old, but it isn't that long, really. I think the most enjoyable thing about homebreds, which I am lucky enough to be able to do, we don't actually sell anything as a foal or a yearling. And about 15 years ago we started something called the Kingsclere Racing Club, and all our homebreds, whether they be good, bad or indifferent, go into that club. We've got some lovely, lovely owners, members of that club involved in them. and we're now on grandchildren of the original ones that went into the club. It enables us to have a slightly quirky breeding program, in that we're not trying to breed precocity. We're really aiming for middle distance horses whose second-hand value will be as much in going jumping as they will in being sold on as racehorses. And we reserve the right, in consultation with the members, to sell when the time is right. Now that can be when they have reached their potential for us as flat horses and need to be going jumping, or it can be when, which is lovely, something like Hong Kong comes calling, or when they're ready to be retired. We can't keep all the fillies, so some of them get sold at and horses in training sales. But it gives you a slightly wider range to be able to let these horses develop and mature. And to us, if they don't run at all at 2, it doesn't actually matter. Whereas in so many cases, you're trying to get them out at 2 to help with the page. But just to see the faces, the homebreds that have never been to the sales, so their first outing to the racecourse is huge. They've not had that sales prep, they've not had the experience of going through the ring. And I just love to see their face when they get to the races for the first time. I always try and get there to see that first time out. At the moment, the yearlings, this year's crop, are being broken. They go away to Claire Bonner, whose husband Chris was Andrew's assistant for several years and great friends. She does a beautiful job. She recognises that with the homebreds, it all takes a bit longer because they haven't had that sales prep. And she takes as long as they need. The first group are almost ready to come back here. Probably won't be in for another 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a little early to find out anything, but I think you can sort of tell when the magical moments of wandering around the paddocks in the evening. And because I take the dogs with me, they always come up to the fence to see the dogs. And just seeing which ones are slightly braver than the others. There's always a ringleader among them which comes up. Or if they're having a gallop round the field, particularly before they're weaned, the mares that let their foals win, or that side of it. I mean, I think it is very instructive. You can tell what is nervous, what gets upset, what takes everything in its stride. And it really won't be this year's 2-year-olds. The first one ran 2 weeks ago, so we haven't even tested those, let alone the yearlings. So it is hard to know. There's a full brother to Kingsclere, who was called Urban Aspect in this country, and he was the most gorgeous foal, but then he went rather teenagery and gawky. And I just hope he comes back to his original good looks. Got quite a nice intello, but hopefully, they did look quite a nice bunch. So, and the fillies are about to go in to be broken this week. And again, they've been given a bit more time to just develop and grow a bit. 2 of them are rather jumping bred, and it was a pity. In a way they were fillies, but I think with the new incentives, both of MOPS and the bonus scheme, I think it's a huge help, particularly to the commercial people, but also to us owner breeders. And if the pursuit of the longer distance ideas is maintained, I think that will be a great help too. Because I think if the like breeding competes say over 7 furlongs, the 1.5 mile bred horses are competing with their own sorts, I think it will give a great fillip to us who want to have those middle distance horses. The stud runs adjacent to the racing yard with completely different staff, and I always maintain that we're just a rather quiet nursery where we have the routine that you would have for small children. Not too many surprises, not too many comings and goings. And I have 4 staff. The head of the group has been with me since he left school. He's now 60, and he is absolutely the linchpin of the operation. He does everything, absolutely everything. We don't foal very many at home. Either very early or very late ones with a mare that's not going to be covered. But I took a view that we slightly lose time if we try and foal here and then try and walk it. We're just not geared to that rather advanced side of stud work. We wean late because we don't need to wean earlier. They almost wean themselves. And this year particularly has been amazing. They just have been completely unfazed by being weaned, and the mares didn't drop back at all by having the foals on them for too long. The whole thing went worryingly smoothly almost. We've got a field of retired mares. It's gone up to 3 now. And they will be retired on the place for as long as they are happy and well.